Welcome to the show with no name for St. Nicholas Day, December 6, 2013. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch, and Jim may show up or he may not. He comes and goes as he pleases. One of the benefits of having your own bread maker in your backyard.
He does, and his contract stipulates that, so it's all right.
It does. He gets paid the same, nevertheless, whether he shows up or he doesn't. It's kind of like A-Rod and Teixeira and those guys. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and soon to be Ellsbury.
Yeah.
Before we get into the serious stuff, have the Yankees learned nothing from their?
Correct.
It's just amazing. If their goal, look, Ellsbury's a very, very good player. He's definitely top rank of the guys who are available this year.
Yeah.
However, he ain't $153 million.
But that's a relative term today. What these guys get paid. It's not what we would consider. But when you look at the averages and what everybody makes in salaries, it's
but all right. Throw the Yankees' salary out and then look at what everybody else pays now. First of all, I'm sure they could have got him for a whole lot less than that. I'll bet you there wasn't any competition anywhere near that level of stratosphere, right?
And I think this is somehow going to be used with leverage with Cano. We're spending this money on him, and we just don't have that much left over for you.
Well, it's a good way to get rid of Cano. They'd be better off paying the money to Cano.
Well, they got him and McCann for a sizable fee, but it is. You're right. So that's 124 million. That's a lot of money, but relative to them, I guess it's not.
Well, look, if their goal was to keep the Red Sox from signing him, they succeeded at that. But the Red Sox weren't going to sign him anyway. Somebody else was going to grab him because, frankly, they weren't
going to break the bank.
They were going to break the bank for a guy whose averages 90 games a season.
But in light of that, the discussion last night was, yes, that's what he's been averaging, but he's not necessarily breaking down. They're collision injuries. Okay, he ran into somebody. He ran into the ground. So it's not like he has body parts that habitually wear out.
Necessarily. Obviously, he breaks his foot and then comes back the next week and steals a couple of bases. Obviously, he's got tremendous talent. I've always enjoyed watching him. He's been a spark plug. I remember the time he stole home against the Yankees. Oh my God! I forget who was on the mound. It was a left-hander.
It wasn't Sabathia though.
No, it was before that.
Yeah, but money is in Major League Baseball what it is, and
it's just foolish. I mean, they just came off a season where they were paying A-Rod, Jeter, and Teixeira together about $500 million and
a substantial amount,
and got virtually nothing out of them. Jeter came back for a while, and A-Rod came back at the end of the season. And they must be planning on dumping his salary. I
think they're crossing their fingers and praying they're going to be able to dump his salary.
Well, if they don't dump his salary, they're going to go so far into the penalty box that
they'll have to pay that big tax.
It's like 50%, right?
It's a lot.
They've reached that threshold, that 50% threshold. Wow. And what did it get them? Wow.
Somebody is despised by everybody in baseball.
Yeah.
And the other thing too with Ellsbury though, he's not like you're bringing in somebody that's going to bring people into the stand. Do people enjoy watching him? Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
But he's not. He doesn't have drawing power. He's a really good outfielder, but he's not. He's not Cabrera. He's not Kershaw. He's not.
Well, he's the guy that they were booing until recently. So,
you're on our team now. We're going to cheer for you.
Yeah. Of course, we went to exactly the same thing with Damon. Lead-off center fielder.
Mm-hmm. And that worked out well for him.
Worked out well for the Red Sox.
Worked out well for the Yanks. Now they got two kind of lightweights though up there in the top of the order. You got Gardner and Ellsbury. You know, we got two guys similar, so that would indicate Jeter's going to be hitting way down in the order because he won't be hitting number 2.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think you're gonna, unless they split the guys out completely and bat one of the guys down in 8th or 9th, so you've got another leadoff batter coming up later in the order. But you've got two very similar guys on the team now, both lefties.
I think they gotta have Ellsbury in the leadoff spot. First of all, his on-base percentage is terrific to begin with, and a walk or a single or a hit by pitch is good for a double with him for the most part, and sometimes a triple.
Yep. And the way Yankee Stadium is configured, he's got a better opportunity for home runs than he did in Boston, even though they had that short spot right down the line. It goes out real fast. Yeah. Yankee Stadium is got a nice little porch out there for him, so I think they're counting on him increasing his home run output with them, as well as getting on base and stealing bases for him. Plus, he's not a huge home run hitter, but he's got power. He had 1 year, 30 home runs that 1 year. I don't think they expect that out of him, but they're probably expecting 15 to 20.
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah,
that'd be good. If you're a Yankee fan.
You're a Yankee fan.
Meanwhile, the Red Sox didn't really need him for what they were going to have to pay for him, so they got away with paying him not a whole lot up to this point. And now they got a couple of guys coming up. They're not going to be paying a whole lot too.
It's Moneyball, just like Billy Bean started. That's how everything is figured now.
Well, you got to have the balance. You can't have just a team full of 35-year-old former terrific ball players.
And last year the Yankees had, out of the 9 spots on the field, 8 spots in batting, they had 4 of the bottom position players in those spots last year, between first base, shortstop, right field, and catcher. They were the absolute worst in the American League.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
And it's a program called Clubhouse Confidential on the Major League Channel, and it's all about numbers. That's all they discuss. And they said the way to win is just what Oakland's doing, to have an entire team of average or just above average guys. You're not going to win anymore with having one star out there and having subpar players in the rest of the spots.
And frankly, you get better team dynamics when you do that.
Yeah.
When you're,
Yeah. Everybody's getting about the same. You're not spending all your money on one spot.
In the case of somebody like Pedroia, he comes up through the system, and he's shown the other guys there are rewards for being a good team player and playing hard.
Yeah.
So that if you play hard, even if you're not making as much money as these other guys, you're going to be rewarded in the end, one way or another.
Winning the championship is the goal of the team, so you can't argue with that.
Well, they all get bonuses for that too, right?
A lot of them have in their contracts. There's bonus money,
Well, they split. Don't they split
the World Series?
The World Series anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least they used to.
Yeah, they do, and it's substantially more than they used to. The team votes on how they're going to split it up. Who gets full shares? Who gets half shares? So.
Yeah. Wow.
So we'll see. It's still, and the winter meetings are just starting now this weekend, so there'll be more trades and action going on too.
Let's see. Things are happening so fast I can't even keep up with them. I guess Saltalamacchia went somewhere.
He went down south someplace. I can't tell you.
And the Sox picked up a catcher from Texas, I believe.
Yeah. He's the catcher for the White Sox too.
I
can see Pacharczyk, but it's not Pacharczyk.
Again, the dynamics are. You can't always judge it. I thought Saltalamacchia was a real good catcher for that pitching staff. He settled because since Veritek went into his decline and was semi-retired and then retired, they had even if he was batting 200, Veritek was a terrific pitcher's catcher. I mean, he called the game better than anybody in the league during his prime, or even during his later years. So they suffered from not having a guy like that. I thought Salty was kind of fitting that mode, but apparently the pitchers really liked Ross better as a pitcher's catcher.
Well, they spoke highly of Ross during the playoffs.
Well, the fact that he ended up catching most of the games and more of the games as the playoffs went on
spoke to that. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess he's staying. I sincerely hope so. But it seems to me when you get you got things working between the pitchers and the catchers, it's not always a great idea to get rid of your catcher.
No.
But if you've got one or two guys that can fill the spot, that's different.
And it's funny you say that because you listen to. I listen to a lot of ball, watch a lot of baseball games during the season, and the announcers invariably criticize the pitcher for getting away from what he does best out there, without ever mentioning he's not the guy who's calling the pitches.
That's right.
It's either the manager or the catcher.
That's right.
Don't say, why is he throwing that? Ask the catcher. Ask the manager.
Mike Riccio, who I guess coached a lot of Little League ball in his day, was of the opinion, and I don't disagree with the theory, that if the pitcher's getting in trouble, change the catcher. Instead of changing the pitcher, change the catcher and see what you don't often do that in the middle of a game,
no.
but
that's who's calling the pitches.
But the theory is interesting, and I think that's what Farrell ultimately did, although not in the middle of the game. But that's what he did when he substituted Ross. Well, what the heck, so he gets tired for the next 5 games. So you get the 6 months or 4 months to recoup.
And you listen to you watch the game, and the pitcher, is just pumping away. Why are they doing it? And you don't see the pitcher shake the catcher off that often. You'll see an occasional shake off, but most of the time, whatever the catcher puts down is what he throws.
Right.
That's where the responsibility lies. Does a pitcher miss the spot sometimes? Absolutely. But they're criticizing the spot that they're throwing to or the pitch that they're throwing to, not necessarily the off one in there. But it's always, they blame it on the pitcher, but it's the catcher or the manager for a lot of teams. Because you look over, the catcher's looking at the manager or one of the coaches on the bench and they're telling them what to put down. It's not the pitcher deciding what to throw. It is what it is. That's what makes baseball such a great game.
Father Anselman told me an interesting story. I think it was the Glens Falls High School team was playing in a championship game, right? In recent years, and they got their best pitcher on the mound, and what did they play? 7 innings, I guess.
Yeah.
And bottom of 7, the potential winning runs are on base, and pitcher and catcher got together, and it counts 3-2. The pitcher throws a curveball, strikes the guy out. They win it. They win the game. But the pitcher is a hard throwing fastballer. Mm-hmm. That's his forte. This guy comes running down from the stands, chews out the pitcher, chews out the catcher, chews out the manager, and he says to the pitcher, when you're in a situation like that, you don't turn chicken, you throw your best pitch and make him hit it. That's how you go after the guy. And he turns and he walks away. The kid says, "Who is that guy?" That was Johnny Padres. And he knew of which he spoke.
But it worked. So what the heck?
But yeah, he says, don't kid yourself that just because it worked, you did the right thing. You did the wrong thing.
That's funny.
Johnny Padres. Yeah. Well, enough of baseball for
yes.
now. Sound of Music last night on television, live. In the golden age of live television, they couldn't have done as slick a job as was done with this show last night. And it was so bold. you're doing a full-length musical for 3 hours, which means a lot. You got to know all your lines. You got to get all the songs just right. You can't miss anything because it's live television.
Well, it's live play on Broadway too.
Well, that's right, but but on top of everything else, they have to film it within the confines of their sets.
That's right. You got to hit the mark.
So everybody, all the players have to hit their marks, and it was there's like 5 different sets in the court, but that they all blended one into another, and then curtains would part, and then they'd be going from one scene into the next. It was brilliantly directed, but so difficult to do. And on top of which, you're dealing with 7 kids and all this stuff.
Now, did I understand, hearing it right, that they did this in an airplane hangar down on Long Island where they filmed this?
Well, that could be. It was on. It was Bethpage or someplace.
I thought they said it was a Grumman's air hangar or something. They build all this stuff in there.
That would make sense. Okay, I didn't know that, but it seemed to me they said they were filming it on Long Island or producing it on Long Island. Okay, so everything is not perfect, but everything was live. It was. Carrie Underwood had never acted before. And you can argue about the way they read some of their lines, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how much rehearsal time they had for this, but her voice was magnificent. All the voices. They clearly cast this for real singing voices. And she came off, notwithstanding, that the lines may not have been delivered, as I might have delivered them, were I a 20-year-old postulant, but she came off as really genuine and charming.
Well cast.
I can't fault it. I can't fault the casting at all. Now, live television, she's singing The Sound of Music at the beginning on their mountain set, and she kind of trips down the mountain, and literally tripped down the mountain. You saw her lose her step at one point. But they're singing live on top of everything else. So they're climbing stairs and there was at one point I think they were doing Do Re Mi. You could see that they were they're running all over the place, and they're clearly losing their stamina.
Did they have commercials in this?
Oh, 1,000 commercials, but they didn't break up any scenes to do it. In other words, it was adapted slightly for television from the stage play, but the breaks were all logical breaks, and even though commercials are annoying, you're still seeing Rodgers and Hammerstein Sound of Music live on television, and you put up with that. The movie ran 3 hours without commercials, so there's a lot less script in the stage play than there was in the movie. Occasionally the dialogue would slow down a bit, and it didn't seem to be. And that's the other thing. You got to time this. You got to time every scene almost perfectly, because it's still got to run off the air at the same time, right? And you still got to have your commercial breaks at the same time. So I mean, they had little musical transitions that got cut short, but they did it. They pulled it off. There's one scene toward the end where the Von Trapps are back from their honeymoon, and they're trying to get them to join the Third Reich Navy, and they actually have a German admiral come in, and I don't even remember this character from the play. It wasn't in the movie at all. And the admiral is trying to convince Captain Von Trapp to come, and they wanted him to come immediately, but sure, we can wait till Monday if you got to sing in the festival, blah blah blah. very small part. He's the only one who screwed up his lines. And he and Von Trapp are just kind of, who's got the next line, and then you can see they're improvising their way out of it, and then they finally got through it. It wasn't all that important, and everybody knows what's going to happen next anyway.
I hope to replay it.
But the musical numbers were beautifully done. The kids were terrific, every one of them. It's all good. And here's, in most respects, the movie script was superior to the stage work. Of course, they had a lot more to work with. They had all of Salzburg to work with, among other things. But they also had Ernest Lehman working on the script, who was a hell of a script writer. And, like in the stage show, the Baroness breaks up with Captain Von Trapp while Maria is watching, and then she comes in, and before the next 2 minutes are over, they're engaged. So it's a little disingenuous, but in this respect, the stage script was vastly superior. The part of the Baroness, the first fiance. Does anybody not know the plot of The Sound of Music?
I imagine several, but
certainly nobody's watching our show.
They would all know.
Doesn't know. Anyway, in the movie, it becomes just a standard love triangle. Okay, you got Baroness and the captain are going to be married for financial reasons more than anything else. There's no, huge. But then the love interest comes in, and he becomes interested in her, and so Baroness knows that she's not going to get anywhere, and so she ducks out. Right? She's had it. Well, the stage show is far more interesting in that respect. The Baroness breaks up not because he's in love with Maria. She breaks up with him because he's made it clear that he will not compromise his principles with the Nazis, even if it means losing everything. Okay, losing his house, losing his fortune, and making trouble for his family. And she wouldn't have anything to do with that because she was a businesswoman. This was a business deal, and if she had to compromise with the Nazis, she'd compromise with the Nazis, and she didn't even seem to be too concerned about compromising with the Nazis. And on top of that, I think Hammerstein at his most brilliant writes a song, this happy song, Crazy Planet, full of crazy people, right? What the heck's the name of the song? There's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it. And there's no way to stop it. No, there's no way to. And it's this happy little polka that the three of them do, Max and the captain and the Baroness, about how we got it. This is just part of life. You have to compromise with the Nazis, and never mind your principles because it's important that we survive because the only person who matters is I. It's there is nothing else but I. And it is absolutely brilliant in its writing and in its execution because they're making this seemingly happy song, and it's about selling your soul is what it's about. That's okay, and it's just a knife stroke. And when the high school did this show several years ago, my daughter Louisa, who had never been on stage, was cast in the part of the Baroness, and so she did that song. Which, believe it or not, also contains the highest note in the score, even higher than the Mother Abbess singing "Climb Every Mountain." Yeah.
And did she hit it?
And she hit it. She nailed it. Yeah, she nailed it, and everyone was amazed because they'd never seen.
She was a novice.
No, she was a postulate at that point. And the nuns were wonderful in this. It's just a fine production. Fine production. I think we should be thrilled with it.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see what the ratings are, and hopefully they did.
Yeah, hopefully zillions of people watched it, and they'll do something else like this again. I don't know what.
They'll probably replay this one again.
Well, I'm sure this will be replayed many times. I'm sure. I hope that they replayed it for the West Coast, and those cast didn't have to go through and do it live again a second time because there was no break in between. There was a 3-hour show.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering.
So they would have had to gone right back to the opening scene.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that. Yeah, they would have to, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Wow. But it was an experiment, and I think
and you wonder, why they would even dare to do it, but it is so much better than a made-for-TV movie. In other words, what they would be doing is they'd just be remaking something that had already been done, and why bother when you got the original?
And this is my way to make it different.
A perfect example is The Music Man. One of the greatest movies ever made, and then they make it for television with Matthew Broderick. It was awful, just awful.
Yeah.
And
some things don't transition well.
Yeah. On the other hand, there have been a couple others that were. Bette Midler did Gypsy, I think, and it was excellent on television. And there was a remake of Bye Bye Birdie that was on television that was quite good also. So it can be done, but yeah, the live stuff, wow.
They had a thing the other night too on it, and I only caught a couple minutes of it. They talked about what went into making this.
Yeah, that was about a week ago.
Is that when it was?
Yeah.
I caught just a few minutes of that. There was something Mish was watching, something on History Channel. I don't know.
When they ran the credits last night, they were showing scenes from the rehearsals where they're all in plain clothes, and then they would transition it right into the costume version.
Can you explain to me, logically and authoritatively, why you can never read the credits? Man, there. You don't even get a if your kid's name or somebody knows it, you'll never see him because they just And at the end of movies, the end of TV programs.
Movies on television they do it that way.
That's terrible.
But if you see the movie in the theater, it goes nice and slow.
Goes slow.
We have plenty of time to snap a picture of Jamie going.
But they go so fast, or you're trying to see who played what role at the end. It's like you can't.
Well, I think they're just planning on you recording it and using the slow motion if you care about that stuff.
Okay, I just wondered.
In the old days, they left most of the stuff out of the credits.
Now they got everything.
Malcolm Atterbury, prime example, it has no screen credit for North by Northwest, even though he has one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie. It's a very short scene, but he's the guy standing at the bus stop in the middle of nowhere with Cary Grant, and he says, "That's funny. They're dusting for crops where there ain't no crops."
It's like, ooh.
I mean, it's just the two of them on the screen, and there's those long pauses in between, and Atterbury delivers the line perfectly, and of course that sets up
big tip off.
That sets up the great airplane in the cornfield scene.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got no screen credit for The Way We Were, for example. Back in those days.
You went down in Union College, huh?
Well, sure.
But Tim Riley got credit for Taps.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was Hulk.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. And he gets a residual check every year too.
He gets a residual. Yeah. I don't know how much he's getting these days, but it wasn't that long ago. It was still in 4 figures, believe it or not.
Yeah. Hey, that's all right.
He was great in that part, but they left most of it on the cutting room floor.
A lot got cut out. Yeah.
You could tell that they were clearly building up the character, and then he just kind of disappeared.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Yeah.
He's got his SAG card, so, I guess. Yeah. I got to hang out with all the
future stars.
The future stars.
Yeah.
He could go back in the pictures. He's got talent.
He's big.
He's a big guy.
I just saw him the other day down at Stewart's. So.
Stewart's on Guy Park?
Stewart's on Guy Park, yeah.
You got the paper today. Was there something in there that...
You know, I'm a tolerant individual. I expect or believe most people have some level of intelligence. I like Russians, I like Ukrainians, I like Mongolians, Burmese, you know,
Kazakhstanis.
There's some Democrats I like, you know, so it's Tea Party people. I mean, I would call many people throughout the world as friends, and I could suffer them. But I could not suffer what I read the other day in the paper. It is beyond the pale. It is the epitome of what we've become here in the United States. It's about the
great Gloversville case, the Fulton County case, right?
Yeah, the chimpanzee that people are suing through a writ of habeas corpus, just as if he were a human.
Right. It's like the 21st century Dred Scott decision they're looking for.
No, that's what they're alluding it to, which is very offensive to start with. This is not. Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I'd be offended.
That you know, I mean, it just starts out bad, and then it just gets worse the more you read about this.
I did not see any local coverage of that. I saw it on the internet and saw that it was the rising out of the Fulton County Supreme Court. I said, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, it was on the front page of the Gazette.
Who's hearing it? Joe Seiss or somebody else?
I don't know if they filed the paperwork in Fulton. I don't know, because it's not simply there. There's also 3 other chimpanzees who are also claimants in this case that they through a writ of habeas corpus would like their bodies returned so they can live out their days in a chimpanzee sanctuary, which in and of itself I understand. But to equate this to a human being and afford to them the same rights that a human being has.
They're basically saying that the owner doesn't have a right to own the chimp to begin with, right? All right, go ahead.
Like humans, chimpanzees have a concept of their personal past and future. Like humans, they experience the pain of anticipating never-ending confinement. Okay? Since you obviously can't have the lawyers from both sides in the room at the same time, I would like to have heard this conversation the lawyers had with this chimpanzee. You know,
have they even interviewed their client?
I don't know. I don't know. They're filing it.
I suspect not. I don't know how they could. How would they have access to their client? What's their standing?
What is their standing? This is one of 4 cases across the state. Instead of filing single lawsuits over several years, the group decided the lawsuits on behalf of all the chimpanzees they could find in a state acceptable. The people who have the chimp were not available for comment. The respondents are detaining Tommy in solitary confinement in a small, dark cement cage in a cavernous, dark shed. Most captive chimpanzees die young. Now this chimpanzee is 27 years old, so he has certainly outlived the expectation of this group.
He's one of the cheetahs just died recently in the last couple of years.
Yeah, one of the Tarzan kids there. It's the Non-Human Rights Project who are the authorships of this. And there wasn't many things in here that really did not strike me as being offensive. Where people are today and how they view the world and view us is beyond it. This is unlike, but not unlike earlier or the end of last week, beginning of this week, the controversy surrounding Katy Perry, who appropriated the Japanese culture for her song and her dress. And that is highly offensive because she did not have the permission of the people that she was portraying in this to do this, she being a non-Japanese individual. And the gentleman who was talking on the news says, and they would probably have to bring up the case from Kung Fu, who was a Buddhist who was not a Buddhist. He was Keith Carradine, and he obviously isn't of that.
Oh, right,
of that culture. Or certainly Sal Mineo, because his portrayal of an Indian and Cheyenne Autumn was certainly done without their.
Never mind Cliff Robertson and the Searchers.
Absolutely, we.
What a great picture.
There is nothing that we can do that people do not find fault with today for some nonsensical reason.
How about Iron Eyes Cody? There you go.
Oh, that's entirely different.
The guy was Italian.
And he claimed to be something else. Keith Carradine didn't claim to be. He just
anything
portrayed.
Other than John Carradine's son, right?
Yes. It just.
What was the name of his character in that show? You remember?
Grasshopper. I don't know. That's what the Buddhist monk used to call him.
All right, never mind. Go ahead.
It's should I be upset every time I go to a Skies festival and I see some Italian walking around in a kilt? Should we be upset every time Notre Dame?
You'd be honored, wouldn't you? On St. Patrick's Day, we're thrilled that everybody wants to be Irish.
Yeah. Should every Irishman be upset because they have a leprechaun as a symbol for the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame?
Yeah.
We have gone so far in this idea of political correctness, of which there is no correct and political, that it's ludicrous. And
perfect example. Of course, the ongoing Redskins controversy. A couple of guys are talking in Washington one day, one of whom was Jewish, who was defending the Redskins' right to call themselves the Redskins, and the other guy says, well, how would you like it if the team called themselves the Jews? He said, are you kidding? He says, nobody's been rooting for the Jews for 6,000 years. He says, I'd be thrilled. People would say, go Jews, go Jews. Right? I'm not offended by Fighting Irish.
No. Are there things that are just patently offensive? Yes, there are.
Of course there are.
But there are other things. If you can't take a step back and laugh at yourselves or things relating to you, then there's something wrong, and there are things wrong now.
Who tells the best Dago jokes?
The Italians.
Right, of course.
I got home last night. I had to work till 9 o'clock, so I was at a different house last night. And I came in, and Wednesday night, the NBC had a Saturday Night Live Christmas special, and they took all the Christmas things and all those things on there. And I came in, fortunately, just at the right time when Adam Sandler was doing his Hanukkah song.
Yeah.
And he in the song, he talked about all the famous Jewish people in stage and screen and how he plays with it. It was absolutely fabulous. And my wife, who really thinks some things in America are bizarre, she said, how many people are going to be offended by that song? And I said, you know what? It's comedy, okay? It's not mean-spirited, But we take everything as serious as a heart attack, and in life there are many things that are problematic. Don't make problems where they don't exist. Do the best you can. Enjoy life. Have a good time. Don't. We're way beyond it, And this gets back to. Some of the stuff with Obama and the Democrats are liberal people who believe in everything except people who disagree with them.
Right.
And then you get to something like this. This is the take-up time in court.
Valuable court time.
Valuable court time for something as ludicrous as what they're purporting this to be. Could they sue me because it's animal cruelty? Fine. Go ahead, do something.
That's fine.
That's not what this is.
That's right.
This is making this chimpanzee have the attributes of a human being. And whether you believe in evolution or not, he ain't us.
And to chew, what are you going to do? Just put him out in the field and decide where he's going to go?
Habeas corpus, because of, according to the Non-Human Rights Project website, the legal maneuver was used in 1772 England by a group of abolitionist lawyers to free an escaped American slave. How can you equate human slavery with this and validate the chimpanzee based upon what happened to human beings? That was wrong. It's not the same thing. I'm going to blow up. My mind's going to blow up.
And I still don't see, a slave is able to communicate with his lawyers, okay? And say, hey, look,
I'm you.
Yeah, right. Bring a writ, get me out of here, right?
Can you interpret? You can't. The chimpanzee's doing it. You can't equate that. I don't know what Cheetah meant when he did. Tarzan maybe knew. Boy may have known. Jane later learned, but I don't know what that is. What Cheetah was doing.
Sabu in the Jungle Book.
Wow.
What was his character? I'm getting old. I can't remember this stuff. I only saw it last week.
This is wrong. This is wrong. Okay.
Well, as I say, I don't see how it gets past. Where do you have standing to bring this case? Goodbye.
I don't know.
And imagine wasting your time on such a thing. Again, if the chimp is being maltreated, there are laws for that. Yes, we want to treat animals humanely. Humanely, yes. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is just crazy.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Especially
and the fact that anybody takes it seriously.
Front page. And it's in our backyard.
I've been reading this wonderful book. Bill Bryson, latest, One Summer, America 1927. Covers a lot of ground.
A whole year?
Bryson is just the summer.
Oh, so a couple months.
May through September, actually. Starts with Lindbergh. Bryson has written quite a number of books now on a wide variety of subjects. He used to do travelogues, and they were all wonderful reads, and hilarious. Probably his best known as A Walk in the Woods about hiking the Appalachian Trail. That had tears running down my face. It was, you think, what's he going to fill a book this size about walking the Appalachian Trail? It was fantastic.
It's a long walk.
That was a fantastic book. He's getting more. This is like reading The Best of Petruchia, really, because of course David writes a lot about the 1920s. He's done 3 or 4 books on Calvin Coolidge. If you count 1920, the year of the 6 presidents, then you've got he did the Kennesaw Mountain Landis autobiography or biography rather, and of course Rothstein about the gangster. Well, all these people show up in this book. In fact, he credits Petruchia.
Oh, really?
Both in the bibliography and in his notes on the Landis book. And a lot of other Petruchia stories that I've read in David's books show up in here, but of course they're mining the same sources too. But in any event, he gives David a big plug. He calls it an excellent biography of Landis. I haven't got to the chapter yet, but I read the notes. Anyway, so a lot of it, is lighthearted. You got the Yankees, the fantastic year of 1927, the best team ever put on the field by most people's counts, and you can't argue it when you see what those guys did that year. And not only Lindbergh, but all the other guys who were attempting flights across the Atlantic. Some of them were successful, most of them weren't, and what happened to them, and lots of. It's the kind of side stories that he throws in that make David's books such wonderful reads. It's not just about the main characters, but he talks about Herbert Hoover and Calvin Coolidge's Summer in South Dakota, and For a '60s liberal, which Bryson is, he comes off with kind of almost an affection for Coolidge, notwithstanding that he may not think much of his presidency. There's this, when he goes out to South Dakota. Now Coolidge is generally seen as the straight-laced,
kind of
starch collar, taciturn, humorless, and he's not humorless at all. He's just silent cow. One of the things he used to do, according to Bryson, is he would he'd be, I don't know if they had the Oval Office yet, but he's in the president's office, and he would ring all the servants' bells at once, and then hide behind the drapes, just to watch the chaos that ensued.
A little work sense of humor.
Yeah. But anyway, he goes out to South Dakota, and somebody presents him with a cowboy outfit, and this is like the Hollywood musical cowboy outfit, with
the fringe, the rhinestones.
Practically the white with spurs and everything, and the huge,
the big hat, the big 10-gallon hat.
He couldn't wait to put the outfit on to show the reporters. And then he pretty much wore it the rest of the summer, except for then he announces he's not running for president. I choose not to run for president in 1928, and hands it out to the reporters. And right after that, he's inducted into one of the Sioux tribes or something like that, and they give him this huge headdress. And,
I've seen that picture.
Oh yeah, he couldn't wait.
Double trailer eagle headdress.
He couldn't wait to put it on. It's endearing, Now, Jack Kennedy, on the other hand, would not put on the 10-gallon hat when he was in Texas just before he was shot, because he hated hats. And there was only once in his life that he ever really had his picture taken with a hat, and that was his inauguration when they all had the top hats. That was the last. The last inauguration where they really went formal with the tailcoats and top hats. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
He and Eisenhower and his father, I remember, all had the top hats.
Yeah.
Anyway, I started reading one of the more serious chapters, a chapter on Sacco and Vanzetti. Not everything is. Cowboy suits and addresses. I just got done reading a chapter on the 1920s were also the era when everybody hated everybody. It was, the peak of the Ku Klux Klan, where they had a couple of state governors and all this stuff. But the big thing he talks about is the eugenics movement. And it's all these professors and you read it. Of course, we're reading it in the light of what happened in the 40s.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely chilling what little value they put on human life. They treated anybody who was not of the Nordic race, as they defined it, which was everybody in Northern Europe except the Irish, is the way Bryson put it, and everyone else is substandard or feeble or whatever, and if you mix, and they have all these scientific studies, to show how the human race is degenerate, or the American race is degenerating because of all these people coming from Italy and Greece and and Bryson says, and how do they explain? Of course, the Mediterranean of the European races, the Mediterranean race was the lowest. There was the Nordic, the Alpines, and then the Mediterranean, which was just like trash. And how do they explain that? The Greeks produced the golden age of Athens, and the Italians produced the Renaissance, and and all the culture.
That was different then.
No. It wasn't because it was because the leaders of those communities were all from the descended from the Nordic races. Nothing to base this on other than it had to be that way. Otherwise, what we're saying doesn't make any sense. The fact that it was taken as serious by so many people in important places and important positions, it was really scary, especially when first you get the sterilization movement, where the Supreme Court of the United States decides in an 8-1 vote that it's okay for states to sterilize people against their will. By their own judgments of what's good for the future of humanity, and there were 30 states that had sterilization laws, and of course the great liberal Oliver Wendell Holmes famously states that 3 generations of morons is 3 too many, or something like that, or is enough. Yeah. It's absolutely, and apparently on no basis whatsoever. As it turns out, it was just a poor family that, and that the grandmother may have had some mental problems, but the 17-year-old pregnant girl and her subsequent daughter were of above average intelligence. As it turns out, but so the state sterilizes. The granddaughter died anyway before they could sterilize her. But still, I mean, tens of thousands of people were sterilized because some smart person determined that they were going to degenerate. And of course, the whole thing, the Nazi doctors come over, and they're fascinated by those, and they give awards to these people. And
they take it one step further.
Margaret Sanger, of course, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was right in the middle of it. I mean, the whole purpose of the Planned Parenthood movement, from Margaret Sanger's point of view, was to eliminate the degenerate races from society. And that means anybody but me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And it went from there to all these serious academic types and public officials going into the mercy killing business. That if you wouldn't have a job, frankly, clearly, because they were publicly advocating for the humane disposal of people who could not contribute to society, and it was just frankly a natural flow of the progressive movement, that we know what's best for you,
And that's offensive that term even gets used with that progressive.
Yeah,
there's nothing progressive about it.
No,
it's regressive at best.
At best, and it's so horrifying to read, and yet you look around. There's you're hearing the same arguments today, but not in the racial terms necessarily. But the thought is exactly the same. Behind it. Wow. To me, of course, being raised Catholic and such, you get a different perspective on these things.
That's right.
But the whole immigration movement or anti-immigration movement in the 20s was based on these eugenics books. That the American race was they were. I think it was the Philadelphia Exposition. They had a it's like the debt clock in New York City.
Yeah.
So they had these clocks going as how many substandard people are being born in this country on the one side, and how many normal people are. So it's like every 2 seconds, some substandard by their terms, is being born, and a normal, it takes 7.5 minutes. And then, so of course, 50 years from now, all we're going to have is a nation of degenerates and all this stuff. And people were fascinated by this, all scientific.
Sure, which was a change from how it had been the latter part of the 19th century when you had immigration issues. That was unsubstantiated, just the fact we don't like them. Now we've got scientific evidence.
Well, that's right.
There's a reason.
There's a reason we don't like that.
them.
And so, so first they cut off most of the immigration, and then they, then of course the second phase is deciding who will be allowed in this country,
based upon
which race they belong to, as they determine,
right.
You know, and it's all very scientific. You know, you read these books, and here are the racial distinctions of the Nordic race from the Alpine race, and the Alpines seem to have done pretty good for themselves. For
well, they're neutrals. So Switzerland, you know.
Just look. It should have been seen as repulsive back then, before we knew what the Nazis were doing. But ultimately, what the Nazis were doing was no different. It was.
They were just carrying it out.
They were carrying out on a large scale what all these American intellectuals were telling them was the right thing to do, and that's why they were pretty confident that the Americans would side with them on this. Right. Why would anybody object?
Mind their own business.
Yeah, but it's all scientific. It's just all for the improvement. Man, it's so sick. I mean, there isn't an ounce. Of course, anything you would refer to as, like Christian charity or something like that, they refer to as hopelessly sentimental. You can't hang on to these things for sentimental reasons. We need to improve the quality of the stock, and to an extent, guys like Herbert Hoover went along with this stuff, and even to a somewhat lesser extent, and earlier in the process, Teddy Roosevelt talks that way too. About the importance of having more children of the right races, and
one or the other. Yeah.
But my people got over here just in time from Italy, and the Irish, there was never a time for them to come over.
No.
Everybody but the Irish. The Irish are clearly a degenerate race. We can't tell you why. They seem to be ultimately of the same stock.
NINA, Irish need not apply.
Yeah.
They used to have on windows.
Yeah.
Down in New York. Irish need not apply.
It's
no Irish.
Anyway, I mean, it's.
But that's something that is usually not emphasized in the study of American history. Was this period of ignorant scientific evidence. It's ignorance that they purport to be scientific.
And we still have it with most of the abortion arguments are based on the Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the great liberal. I thought we were past it. This is all about making sure that these people don't have babies. Yeah, those people.
Yeah.
My God. It's just chilling stuff, and when you see what what was so easily accepted, the anti-Semitic stuff coming out of Henry Ford, he's big in the book here. Henry Ford was, except for making cars, was pretty much an idiot. They actually had him on the stand, and it became, kind of the newspapers just loved to quote Henry Ford from the stand because they would ask him basic questions about American history and this and he knew absolutely nothing whatsoever, and yet he would, he would have all these solid theories of what should be done based on no knowledge whatsoever. Of course, he said history is bunk. He didn't know any history.
Yeah, sounds like somebody I know is running the government.
Yeah, quite a few people actually.
Don't know anything about history.
So anyway, that's Bill Bryson. I was going somewhere with this. Had to do with the Nazis. Yeah, I don't know. Well, from the I know I had 3 Nazi things: The Sound of Music, this. Oh, well, yeah. The really big news of the day came late yesterday. The death of Nelson Mandela. Now, here's a guy with the most remarkable history. He was in jail from 1962 to 1990 or something like that.
He was in jail for 27 years.
He really belonged to a violent organization. His wife. Well,
he belonged to a violent that turned into a violent organization because of what the government had done with the
I'm not.
But he was. Yeah, he was a member of that.
But and he had advocated some of that stuff in his youth. And his wife, while he's in jail, is publicly advocating. What did they call it when they hang the tire around their head and fill it with gasoline and burn them to death? A necklacing or something like that. They call it. She was all for that. That was to get. That was for the stooges of their own race. Mm-hmm. Who were cooperating with the
apartheid government.
Apartheid government. Well, that's Nelson Mandela in jail. Two very remarkable people. I remember getting up in the middle of the night to watch F.W. de Klerk's speech to the South African Parliament. It must have been around 1990. Now, de Klerk was a brave guy. He's the president of white South Africa, apartheid South Africa. And he gets up and he gives a speech where he says, we have to end the system. We have to become one nation. And to that end, it's important that we have the cooperation of Nelson Mandela, who can play an important part in this. Now, I don't know what went on behind the scenes for the years leading up to that. But Mandela, a lot of people are on the losing side and then end up on the winning side. There are damn few who are able to perform that act with the graciousness that he did. Majority's back in power. You could do like they did in Rhodesia and just kill all the whites. Mm-hmm. And exactly the opposite. He provided for a peaceful transition that no one thought was going to be possible. And he did it in any number of ways. At his presidential inauguration, seated front and center was the warden of the jail that he'd resided in for 27 years. I think one of the most amazing things that they did was the Truth Commission that they set up. Basically, what they said was, no one is going to be punished for what happened, as long as the truth comes out, as long as we all come out and admit what happened, how it happened, why it was wrong, how it should never happen again. And it was just amazing. And people who had been
bad guys,
killing each other or torturing each other or imprisoning each other or terrorizing each other all came out and admitted what had happened, and they did it together. It's been what, 20 some years since he took over, right?
23 years.
23 years. and that country has had its ups and downs, but they managed to have a far more peaceful transition than they had before it started, right?
Yeah.
They have genuine democratic government. On top of everything else, he provided them with economic stability and all that stuff, and a steady. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for him to hate everybody, and to gradually do his Count of Monte Cristo.
Come back and get you all.
Yeah, and he did not. And that alone, it makes him one of the most important figures since George Washington. I think he had the power and he used it wisely.
And then he voluntarily
and then he walked away, and they both did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, that astounded the country that he did that, but I think it woke the country up again to what had taken place and what they want to have happen in that country. That we want a democratic government, and
we want peace.
We want peace, and sometimes giving up something is the best way to acquire what you want, by giving it up. And you're right, he did. He drove them to a democratic country. They certainly have economic issues today, which are hangovers from that system, but they are growing. There's abject poverty in some areas, but there's opportunity. It's one of the fastest growing economies in the world. They held the Rugby World Series down there that they won, which he attributed attributed the success of his presidency to that, to unify the country, because everybody came together behind the team.
What was the name of that movie?
Invictus.
Yes, I haven't seen that yet. I got to put that on my list.
You got to see that. It's Matt Damon is absolutely fabulous in that. It's really, and so was Morgan Freeman.
Well, basically, who really looks like Mandela.
And he sounds like him too in the movie.
Does he wear the wild shirts too?
Yeah, absolutely. But it brought the country together in a way it had never been brought before.
Well, basically, rugby is a white man's sport.
It is. It's a school by sport.
And Mandela treated that not as the white man's team, but as the South African team.
And he did that by allowing them, or requiring them, to keep the name Springboks, which had been the name of the white team, and a lot of his fellow countrymen.
It was an Afrikaner name,
right? Yeah. And a lot of people resented that, but they saw what happened because of it, and it brought the people together. Because sports oftentimes can bring diverse groups together, but this had a genuine impact on his government and what he was trying to do for the country. And the other thing he did that was impressive, when he gave his inaugural speech, he gave it in Afrikaner, and he didn't learn Afrikaner until he was in prison, and one of the prison guards taught him to speak Afrikaner, because he says, you speak your language, I can hear you. You speak my language, I can understand you. And it really shocked a lot of the Afrikaners there, that he really was, going above and beyond, the extra mile, the olive branch, everything, all in one, to make the country feel up together, not apart.
Right. There's a lot that the current occupant of the White House could learn from that.
Oh, there's a great opportunity for him to learn, but he cannot learn it. Someone whose ears and mind are closed cannot learn anything. And his ears and his mind, and usually his eyes are closed.
It's a shame.
Does not learn. It is, because it is such an important
position. A few weeks ago on the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, we talked about that. What a missed opportunity. Because let's face it, this country has a long racial history problem. He overcame a lot of that by being elected president, and he has the power to unite the country.
He has the ability to unite
and he chooses not to. Instead, he just continues the old divides, and it makes no effort whatsoever to bring everybody together, even on a fundamental level. We're not going to agree on everything. This country is divided on political issues right down the middle on all kinds of stuff. But that doesn't mean we can't be civil with each other, that we can't reason with each other. And his view is, no, I don't need you. I don't need 49% of you. I only need 51%, and the rest of you can go to hell.
Well, he wants company at some point in time. That's why he says that.
That could be.
Yeah. But, and every time he speaks, it's a stump speech, just like he's still running for office.
Right.
And there's no substance in those speeches, because he has no plan or solution to the issues that we have, and he doesn't. If you're in a room by yourself, you got one idea. You got two people in the room, you should have at least two ideas, if not more. And he refuses to have anybody else in the room but himself.
And then he doesn't think through his ideas particularly well either. They're as shallow as the stump speeches.
The law of unintended consequences, he's the epitome of that, because those ideas have not been thought through. He does not spitball ideas as a...
Well, his own press people seem to be turning on him now, and rightly so. But eventually they're finally waking up. But he even treats the people who support him with contempt. It's crazy stuff. How'd you like that thing yesterday? A year ago when his uncle in Massachusetts got in trouble with the DWI, and it turned out he was an illegal alien and was subject to deportation, blah blah blah. And then the other day he was in immigration court, and they allowed him to stay and actually be on a path to citizenship, which is kind of crazy, but that's neither here nor there. That's the president's uncle. Who cares? If you can't do something for your uncle,
do something for your family. Yeah. Okay.
But a year ago, when this was a big controversy, the White House press office denied that Obama had ever met the guy, and then in the uncle's testimony before the immigration court, supported by his landlord, pointed out that Obama, when he was going to Harvard, lived with him for 3 weeks. The guy he'd never met.
Because it was an inconvenient truth back then.
Yeah. And now yesterday, Carney admitted, well, yeah, sure, the president did stay with him for a short time. When we put out that statement, we didn't ask him. They just denied. They denied that he had ever met his uncle, but didn't bother asking the president whether he had ever met him. Now, come on.
And then, you're going to believe the answer, did you?
So nobody thinks that was a serious reply.
Well, nothing that.
But he lies so easily. It just denied. It was like watching. It's like watching Lee Harvey Oswald. Do you have a gun? No. Did you ever have a gun? No. Is this a picture of you with a gun? You just put my face on somebody else's body. There's an answer for everything. Anybody can Photoshop that picture, Lee Harvey Oswald said.
But when you view yourself,
according to Abraham Lincoln on the internet,
you are king of everything. Nothing matters to you. It doesn't matter what I say.
Right.
I just say what I want.
And the hardcore defenders are saying, well, all the presidents lie. That's okay. It's Obama. He can lie.
And I honestly, next to him, the guy I like the least is Carney. But I feel so bad for the guy now. I feel so sorry that he has to go out there and say this stuff. I mean, he's just got to be burning up every night. I mean, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep lying, making up the same stories you are that are lies. And he's good. I mean, Carney's good, and he keeps his cool. But
the guy before him, what was his name? He's been in the news a lot lately, and I've forgotten his name. The first press secretary was a disaster. Because he just couldn't.
He couldn't keep all the lies straight.
Right, right. And he was just awful with the press corps. And of course, Carney's pretty awful with the press corps too. But the first guy was worse. Well, the first guy has now been in the news quite a bit because he's commenting freely on on Obama's. You like your plan? Can keep your plan. Like your doctor? Keep your doctor. Yeah. And he says. He's basically saying, how could he make a statement like that? He knew it wasn't true, and this is his former press secretary. Holy crap!
You know, and then they keep replaying the one. If you like your policy, you can keep it. Period. Okay. There's no interpretation. On that.
Right.
You
period.
can't think he meant anything else.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Right. There's no loopholes here.
It's Friday, December 6th. Period. That's it. That's what they
That's
did.
it.
You can't change that. You know.
Feast of St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
Laura found some candy and coins in her shoes this morning.
Really?
Yes. What happens on St. Nicholas Day to good children?
And she's a good child.
And she is a good child. She is a good child. Yes, indeed.
So if today is the 6th, that makes tomorrow December 7th.
It is. It is. Hey, there's that. Well, I don't know why I'm bothered telling you this. Won't even be on the air. But there's a thing at the Century Club tonight, the USO show, where
the Stonehouse Piper's playing there.
I just got an email asking me for some books to sell on their gift store.
Yeah, we'll be down there. We'll be down there.
At what time are you going down?
Going down at 5:30.
What time's the ceremony start?
6 o'clock.
Okay. All right. So I'll probably go down at 5:30 also then and bring some books.
Yeah. We're going down there and then.
Maybe if I go early and bring some books, they'll let me in for free. Probably not though.
Well, if you sit in the hallway, you're not really in there, so you may not have to pay because you're not in there. You're over here. Yeah. So
I assume they want me to donate the books, which is okay. It's for the benefit of the USO, apparently.
Yeah, that's what you can do with it. Yeah. They've got
it's a great thing.
They've got a number of.
We have a lot of Amsterdamians in the USO doing the USO tours. They're in my book. There was a guy. What the heck? The guy from Amsterdam who toured all the bases in Europe and North Africa doing farmyard imitations. that was
his skill.
Yeah, that was his skill. Yeah.
Well, a lot of farm boys, so they probably enjoyed it. Yeah, but they've got a number of groups going to be singing down there, performing tonight, and so he's up. Misha's up early. He's like the second one because at 7:30 we got to be down in Schenectady for soccer. So he's going to play the pipes and then scoot out from down there.
Have they had the holiday parade in Schenectady yet?
Yes, they did. They had it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
At night it was about 3 degrees.
Oof.
The notes from the bagpipes, you could see them down at the...
It
was cold, but they had a huge turnout. As cold as it was, they had a huge turnout.
We went down a couple of times, and I don't know, the whole parade from beginning to end is so secular and non-Christmas that I mean, even more than secular, it's non-Christmas. I mean, a certain amount of Santa Claus and snowmen I can put up with, but it was like Christmas wasn't part of it whatsoever, and it turned me off. I'd go down for the Amsterdam High Band, but not for any other reason.
They did a nice job in the.
They always do.
Yeah.
They always do.
Yeah.
Good group.
Johnstown has a holiday parade too. They do
holiday.
They do one up there. Earlier.
Now that the last day of Hanukkah finished yesterday or the day before, there's.
There really is no holidays.
There's only Christmas. Christmas is the next holiday, other than today, St. Nicholas Day.
Yeah. After that, it's just Christmas. And it's only 3 weeks. 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah, it's not too far.
No.
Not too far. A week from today is little Bob's birthday on Friday the 13th.
Was he born on Friday the 13th?
He was not. He was born on a Monday morning. You ask, how does he recall this so easily? Well, the reason is I was an assistant district attorney at the time, and I was scheduled to begin a DWI trial with a jury in front of Judge Riccio in Amsterdam City Court, or Police Court, on Monday morning, first thing Monday morning. So I brought this rather thick file home with me over the weekend to prepare the case. And early Monday morning, Mary goes into labor. And we go down to the hospital, to St. Mary's, And there was a point around 7 o'clock in the morning when she was reasonably stable. In other words, the contractions were were still
Regular.
at a normal distance,
Yeah.
and birth was not imminent. It was on its way, but it was not imminent. Okay, so I talked to the doctor. I said, if I leave for 15 or 20 minutes, is anything going to happen? No, that's fine. So all I could do at that point, because the courts weren't open or anything at that hour, is go down to the bank building where I had my office, and Howard Asen, who was a DA, had his office. And I left a note for Howard. I said, look, my wife's in labor. I can't get to police court. I am got to be with my wife. And that's all I could do. And I couldn't even give him the file. The file was home. So I get back to the hospital, and we get through labor, and she gives birth, after afternoon. Actually, I think it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock. I forget. So meanwhile, I guess Howard gets in touch with the court, and Bob Chris was the attorney for the defendant, and he's ballistic that
You're not there.
that we're not there, and the jury is there, and and so the whole thing caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. But this is not a case where I screwed up. There was just no other option, as far as I was concerned, anyway. So in any event, Chris gets Judge Riccio to sign an order to show cause why the case should not be dismissed for failure to prosecute. And so I then have to answer in court defending motherhood apple pie in America, and Riccio says, I had, I forget how many kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, whatever. He says, well, you didn't have to be in the delivery room with her. I had all these kids, and I was never in the delivery room. And Judy Patrick, who is now the editor of the Gazette, I think at that time was with the Recorder, and he turns to her and he says, "Mrs. Patrick, you wouldn't expect your husband to be in the delivery room with you, would you?" And she said, "Absolutely, Judge."
Oh, okay, never mind.
So Bobby's birth. On top of everything else, Chris subpoenaed Mary's medical records to confirm, to find out if in fact there was a baby born and when it took place. He could have asked me, As a matter of fact, I had it in my thing. So anyway, this made headlines in the paper day after day, and each was, and Mrs. Going gave birth to, 7-pound, 15-ounce baby boy, so many inches, 21 inches. So Bobby's birth got announced
several times
in the paper. Oh, it was great. So anyway, ultimately, Riccio ruled in my favor. Reluctantly, because I don't think he could. I don't think he could have stood the heat of
the mothers coming down there.
Right. So I won the motion, and a month or so later, we tried the case, and I lost.
Oh, wow.
Not guilty. Well, that's all right.
Todd was born on. He was a Friday the 13th baby.
Well, one year when, I don't know, Bobby, I forget how old he was, but his birthday came on Friday the 13th, and I said, this is, you're lucky. You're only 11 years old or whatever it was, and I said, I'm 40-something. He said, and my birthday has never fallen on Friday the 13th. He said, "Really, Dad?" I said, "Yeah, I was born on the 30th.
Oh, they hate it when you get them, don't they? I gotcha.
Oh God. Anyway, that was fun. That was and that was. I think that was the dawn of the era of 1 hour photos. Because I remember taking a bunch of pictures and having them developed, before the afternoon was over.
You have to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what a difference it's been. I mean, back then it was a couple. You used to mail them out and give them in a couple of weeks. Then you had a 3 hour photo. And you had a little photo booth up by the police bank there. Then it's 1 hour photo. Now it's instantaneous.
Where was that? Across the street, wasn't it?
Yeah. Where by
in the parking lot.
Yeah, where Dunkin' Donuts is right in there someplace it was. Yeah. And now it's hard to find someplace that'll develop film. They're certainly.
Oh yeah, they're now. If you want film developed, forget it. You're just going to have to wait a few days.
Yeah, you can get take your SM card and put it in there, and they'll print out pictures for you in an hour or so. But places that really developed a film. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing how terrific the electronic cameras have gotten in such a short period of time.
They're on your phone now. They take better pictures.
Right.
I remember what was it? The Polaroid had the one where take a picture, come out the bottom there, and in 30 or 60 seconds you'd pick it up and you'd look at it. But they're all fading now. I mean, actually the pictures are fading away because they weren't sealed like they should have been. So a lot of those you can barely see the images.
Of course, the first generation of Polaroids, you had to rip the thing out. Tear half of it off to start the developing process, and more often than not, rip the picture while you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first one, our camera we had. You had to look down in the viewfinder down here. I remember spending 25, 30 seconds trying to find it in there. And you had the little digital ones you could, or the little ones that you could look through. You had a viewfinder on that, and that was better. But it has. I mean,
frankly, the ones you had to look down through the lens were easier to use than the electronic cameras today, where you're holding it up, looking at a screen like that.
Yeah, you're right.
When you can just hold it up to your eye and snap the picture or look down, and you're stable. But now it's all
selfies.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Things have changed, Mr. Goings.
Yes, they have. Quite a bit in our lifetimes. It's quite remarkable in many respects. Certainly the miniaturization.
The other day, we were flipping through channels and we saw a Seinfeld from 1991
with his portable phone. Yeah.
It was huge.
And that wasn't even a cell phone.
And Misha goes, I said, it's like a World War II walkie-talkie.
Exactly.
That's all it was, And I said, now you watch some of the other shows that you watch, and you can tell about what year they are by the size of the phones that they have.
And the TV screen, the monitors.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of NCIS because they've made so many episodes, and I never watched the show until fairly last couple of years. I'm completely hooked on it. But the older shows, they've got these heavy full-size cathode ray tube monitors, and when they finally go to the flat screens, you can tell the difference.
Yeah, that's one of my wife's favorites. She really likes that.
It's a good show. I mean, it's
Abby's the best.
Abby's wonderful.
I like Abby.
And I absolutely cannot get into the Los Angeles version.
You don't watch that? No.
It's just I've caught a couple episodes, and it's not even a good spin-off.
No.
It's Mark Harmon is a terrific actor. He can do more with a nod of his head than or tilt of his head rather.
Or slap up the back of the head. But that's a real.
But good cast and
the storylines are
and they develop. They really develop the storylines well. And the backs, it's like some of these shows. When you start seeing, the whole package over a period of years, it's amazing. It's as though they really had thought out the whole backstory before they filmed the first episode, and then gradually let it drip out over a period of years. But that's what that's a sign of a good show when you
Yeah.
have characters who are more than just stick figures that are plugged into plots.
Yeah.
You know, there's depth to every one of them.
You know, and Gibbs, when you see him in the program, you think that's how our guys doing those jobs really should be. That's
Right.
how our government, who is supposedly protecting us, this is how they should be.
Yeah.
Like that. You know, that's how somebody who's been in the military should be. He possesses all the qualities that you expect, and he's got his little foibles in there that make him human.
Make them human, right?
You know, and that's what you got to have, and it's good. We watch that. That's one of our family programs. We watch that as a family. We sit down and we watch that.
Well, it's such a pleasure that I can, you know, I can watch 5 in a row, and some of them, most of them I haven't seen before.
Yeah, well, there's so many of them.
If I have, I've forgotten.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
And then you start to understand some of the backstory more.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's I still can't figure out all the
No.
stuff that led up to Ziva's leaving this
No.
show. It's all confusing to me. It's who is it? It was the plot was like The Big Sleep. After it's all done, you say, what just happened here?
Yeah. Ducky's great.
Ducky's great. There was one episode where one of the characters says to Gibbs, I wonder what Ducky looked like when he was young. And Gibbs says he looked like Ilya Kuryakin. Now, seriously, what did he do in between? Anything?
I can't.
We're talking about the Man from U.N.C.L.E. from about 1965, where he
Yeah.
played the sidekick.
Yeah, Ilya Kuryakin. I don't know what he did in between. He probably is in a few things, but he
I don't remember seeing him at all between the Man from U.N.C.L.E. and this show.
But he's
great.
Wonderful. What a personality he has in this show, and the personality he's developed to deal with working with
Right.
murdered bodies. You know,
Right.
his conversations with them, and it's
Well, that's it. They've all got their little quirks.
Yeah.
And
that's what makes them like us.
Yeah.
We each have a little quirk.
yeah.
Well,
So who are they getting to replace? It seemed like they were auditioning a new girl every week.
yeah, they got a new girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was from the Geek Squad there that they brought in a couple weeks ago. She's going to be the replacement. The one that she goes off and sits by herself and works on her computer, or sits down in the middle of the floor. She's going to be the replacement.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was an interesting character.
Yeah.
But they all were. They were. It really looked like an audition thing.
Yeah,
going on.
they all were. But I think Abby's is the best.
And she never seems to age either on the
No.
show. The others you can see
A little bit of age in that,
Yeah.
especially that kid,
Tony.
Tony.
Yeah.
Because he was pretty young when it started. It's been
Yeah.
12 years now.
And his character has developed. You know,
Yeah.
he's not just the wise guy. He's actually pretty good at his job, and he filled in good for Gibbs when Gibbs was out. And,
they had that.
And he's trusted to take over. When,
Yeah.
And then they got all these extra.
The FBI agent's great.
Well,
married to Gibbs.
Joe Spano has not stopped working since Hill Street Blues. I think he's been on one show after another.
Yeah. That's a great storyline with married to the same girl,
Right.
divorced her,
Right.
and all of Gibbs' wives have been redheads. So anytime you see him, it's usually a redhead.
Yeah.
But,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that I've seen any of his ex-wives other than the dead one and that one.
Yeah.
There were at least 2 others. Oh yeah, no, there was another one I saw once. Yeah. Well, it's hard to keep them.
Yeah.
12. It was really 12 years. It's
I think it was 2001.
But it's still great. Clock's right here. That's accurate.
Yes, it is.
Well, I know. I can see the real time over here. That's one advantage of doing this from the Reagan studio. We've got multiple clocks.
Yeah.
Let's see.
See, that's something a lot of people can't do anymore.
What's that?
They couldn't look at that.
We can't read a digital clock?
They can't read a real clock.
Really? I mean, not a real. I mean, an
a real
analog
clock.
clock. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people can't do that. Lost art. I mean, I think we spent like a whole year in first garden learning how to tell time. Remember, we had those workbooks, and we had to either draw the one hand in, or you had to look at it and tell what time it was. Yeah.
This is that old military joke where the Army guy says, we're taking off at 1900 hours. For you Navy guys, it's 7 p.m. And for you Marines, the big hand is whatever, they told the same joke.
Whatever service you need.
Depending on which service you're in.
Yeah.
The big hand is on. Laura can read a clock. She never forgets anything she learns.
Isn't that the definition of learning?
What?
Isn't that the definition of learning? You're not forgetting it?
I suppose, but like she never forgets, and she absorbs just like a sponge.
You gotta be careful.
She was, she was like 3 or 4, and she was shown a map of the United States on the way home from the Perth Road shopping centers. Okay,
yeah.
And this is this state. They said she couldn't even, she could recognize some of the letters and associate them with the different states, but basically this is California, this is Florida. By the time she was home, she was able to get about 80% of them right on a blank map where there's no names on them whatsoever.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can't lose her.
No.
She'll find your way home.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can't get away with anything with her either. Well, let's see. Got Mandela. Geez, we haven't even talked about anything local other than the chimp. It's incredible. I got to find out. It doesn't say who the judge is in the article, right?
No, it didn't say. Well, it hasn't done the.
Yeah.
Except that it didn't say in there.
Only said it was they filed it, right?
Yeah, it was filed.
And my understanding was at the point I read it on the internet that the defendants had not even been served with it.
Right, they were not at their home property when that afternoon family members working. The reindeer passed out back from the road, refused to comment on any alleged caging of a chimp. If you had a chimp, wouldn't you keep him in a cage? I don't know. This is wrong. This is wrong.
All right, so we got tonight we got the USO show.
Oh, yeah.
We started talking about Pearl Harbor. Is there anything planned for that? Last year they didn't do anything.
Right, and that was brought up on the radio the other day, and they said nobody was aware of any program up at Hassenfuss Field.
They didn't do one last year, and no. I remember last year I went up there and just videotaped Hassenfuss's memorial and posted that on the internet.
I don't think there's anything up there.
All right, so I got to do something with that on Facebook. And then Sunday is a bunch of things. We got actually Saturday there's also something down at the Arts Center on East Main Street.
Yeah, we'll be down there for that.
That's in the afternoon, I think.
Yeah, I think it's...
And then Sunday at City Hall, there's the open house holiday stuff with, somebody resembling Rob Van Hassel playing playing Stephen Sanford or something, or John Sanford, I forget. I don't know. Touring the Sanford building. We've got, and I was going to cut it short, but I came across in Dan Weaver's store yesterday, or the day before, yesterday I think, might have been the day before, a book on the broadloom industry put out by Harvard Business School.
Really?
Focused on the Bigelow company and its ultimate mergers with Bigelow Hartford and Bigelow Sanford, and so I got the backstory. It was they were possessed of remarkable information for this. It's a mostly technical book. You're reading about What percentage of the Axminster was held by this company, and all this stuff, and the relative values of the companies. And well, the backstory is John Sanford, who donated City Hall to the city, son of Stephen Sanford, really didn't have an awful lot to do with his family industry. In other words, he had executives basically ran the company that gave him time to go to Palm Beach and have his apartment in New York, his townhouse in New York, his horses and stuff like that. So really, the basic operations of the company were conducted by the senior staff that he had inherited from his father, right? Many of whom were starting to grow old. And Bigelow was looking for a partner in the late 20s, really throughout the 20s, for reasons having to do with what kind of looms they had and what kind of looms they didn't have, and wanting to merge with a company that had the looms of the future or whatever. Upgrade. And actually they courted the Alexander Smith Company for several years, which later became part of Mohawk, hence the Mohasco. The AS was for Alexander Smith. But that deal fell through for reasons that are obscure, even when the book was written. Sanford then says, oh, wait a minute, I might be interested in getting out of this business. He saw his executives as getting older. He had made no plans for the future of the company because he was busy with his horses and everything else. So he approaches Bigelow, and then they work out the deal, which ultimately culminates on the day the stock market crashed, as it turns out. That he doesn't tell anybody he's doing it, including the senior executives of the company that he's selling. Oops. And as part of the merger, he makes no effort whatsoever to protect his executives.
He left them flying in the wind.
Apparently he states openly that they've been well paid over the years, and they should have looked out for this eventuality on their own. They don't need me to do that. And so they were absolutely blindsided. And of the entire upper echelon of the Sanford Carpet Company, John Sanford becomes chairman of the board of the United Company. Right. Meaning he does nothing. Really. Sure. He was a ceremonial, and Laddie becomes a member of the board of directors, so he's well paid to be a member of the board of directors and does nothing. And their banker becomes a member of the joint company board of directors. That's it. Two top executives from Sanford survived the merger, and they didn't last long. They were gone within a year, I guess. So yeah, that's what you're doing. That's the loyalty that the Sanfords family showed to the people who made them rich. Rich beyond their wildest dreams. Wow. By this time, Laddie's already fooling around with Lady Mountbatten. They've already endeared themselves to the Prince of Wales. Was a regular party guest of the Sanfords, the future Edward VIII and future Duke of Windsor. So they're living in a whole different world, and absolutely no feeling. And of course, quite a few people lost their jobs, and not just the executives, but the merger ended up with that, and the Bigelow Company being centered in Connecticut and New York.
That's where the corporates were. Could
have cared less about what happened to the city of Amsterdam or the people. And matter of fact, though, the John Sanford wouldn't even get involved with the local Chamber of Commerce, according to this story in this book, and that one of the first things that Bigelow did was to put one of their executives on the board of the Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, he had nothing to do with them. He could care less.
It's a little
They're wasting our time.
the peasants out in the...
Yeah.
Wow. Cold-hearted.
Boy, you know, it's kind of easier to understand some of those revolutions when you,
When you see
yeah, it's hard to develop sympathy, I'll tell you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it explains some of the feelings that people had in this community to the carpet
Sure.
companies, and then they got it stuck to them again when they moved completely out of here down south, and we left everybody sitting.
You know who the president of Bigelow was when they pulled out of here? And of course, that was again precipitous. They just announced one day we're closed.
Yeah. Singer?
No. You'll recognize the name when I tell you, but you wouldn't guess it in a million years. Lowell Weicker Sr., the father of the future governor and senator from Connecticut, was the guy who pulled the plug on Amsterdam. Yeah.
Well, it just shows you how far removed those suits were from the actual process.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Weicker.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's my latest story of the day. I guess I've told the McKinney story before.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
No wonder people felt.
This house used to be filled with Sanford rugs. I was allergic to them. And there's still some in the attic. I bet you if I cleaned them up, they'd be museum pieces.
Well, they were built to last a lifetime.
They were. Let me tell you, I used to be in the rug cleaning business, ladies and gentlemen, and let me tell you, wool rugs were amazing. You probably can't even buy one anymore, but they lasted forever. And no matter how dirty they got, you could clean them and they'd look brand new when you were done. The colors had all come back. I had separate detergent for natural fibers and for the synthetic fibers. And the synthetic rugs never came as clean as the wool rugs. Nor did they last as long as the wool rugs. Just phenomenal how the quality of the carpets that came out of this town back in the olden days.
Back in the days. Wow.
But yeah, completely. They could care less about the not even just the folks. I mean, they treated the guys who were running the place as though they were barmaids, you know. Common tradesmen. They treated them as though they were common tradesmen.
Yeah, there's definitely no family feeling for them.
I'm quoting from my favorite court case when I was down in Westchester County Family Court.
Somebody said that?
All we had was the very rich and the very poor in family court. So this is a very rich story. The guy was having a dispute with his wife, and she's watching television and not listening to him, and he stands in front of the television so to get her attention, and she said to me, "Good night, Donald." And then his next sentence is, "She dismissed me as though I were a common tradesman." Well, coming from a long line of common tradesmen, I
umbrage with that.
I damn near fell off my chair. I had to call a recess. I just had never heard anyone speak like that before. As though I were a common tradesman. What century did this guy belong to? You know? Wow. Isn't that incredible? Jeez. This is like 1995. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was February 1995.
Wow.
Miss me as though I were a common tradesman. So then he tries to commit suicide with a steak knife in front of her, and that was the whole basis of. She considered that a family offense that he tried to
in front of her.
That he tried to kill himself in front of her.
Oh.
All he did was go like that. He didn't even cut a vein, but yeah. Incredible stuff.
Common tradesman.
Common tradesman.
Wow.
Good night, Donald. I ended up the lawyers were being paid $700 an hour. They were Wall Street lawyers, and these people didn't care. They just fight about everything. So ultimately, I did not find there was a family offense such that I would issue an order of protection, ordering him out of the house. There didn't seem to be any reason for that, for reasons I don't have to get into here. But the lawyers approach me and say, look, the two of them can't decide who gets the master bedroom and who gets the guest bedroom, because obviously they can't stay in the same bedroom, but they can't decide between them, and they want you to decide, and it doesn't matter what you decide, as long as you make the decision, because they can't make it for themselves. So I call them all back in the courtroom. Okay, all right, okay. Is that you're leaving it up to me? You're leaving it up to me? You're fine. Okay. Wife, you get the master bedroom. Husband, you get the guest bedroom. Well, why should I get the guest bedroom? Because you told me I could decide, and I just did. And it was down to the point of who gets which shelf in the refrigerator, and they're paying lawyers $700 an hour to do this. And the lawyers are, they're just, they recognize what they're dealing with there. It's just amazing.
It's like the War of the Roses.
So I said to the regular judge down there, I said, I'm mystified by this because we don't see this at home. I said, the only people I've seen here are very rich and very poor. Does no one else live in Westchester County? And she smiles and she says, I think that's why they call it middle class values. Because you're not going to see them here. They have the middle class have middle class values.
That's right.
Oh man. Funny. Anyway, that's about it for today. I guess we're going to be back with our radio show on Tuesday. I see no reason why we can't do another podcast next Friday as usual.
The 13th.
The Friday the 13th, my son's birthday. Maybe I'll tell these stories again, depending on how many people watch this show. If nobody watches it, I don't know. Maybe we'll do it again, or I'll just rerun this show, and they won't know the difference.
Right. Good.
All right. Outstanding. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch, and this has been the show with no name.